Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to uLaw's CPD webinar. Topic for today's session is Law of Expense Management. As you all know, this is a CPD session, and you're entitled for 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. I'll be sharing the topic details as well as the attendance link towards the end of the session. So I request everyone to hang in tight until I share the details end of the webinar so that you can provide your attendance on the attendance link. And any questions, please use the chat window at any time, and we'll be happy to provide you the answers. I'll try to accommodate during the session. If not, I request everyone to stay back for 5 to 10 minutes so we can discuss your questions. I was waiting for more folks to join in. I see more folks joining in. Please do not worry. The session is being recorded. It's going to be available now on our YouTube platform as early as Monday or Tuesday. So, please use the audio option at any time. If you're not able to hear me well, or if you have any difficulty hearing me, there's some background noises, I request you to use the phone audio. Thank you. I see that someone's having difficulty hearing me. Just give me a moment, please. Kindly let me know if you're able to hear me well now. The beeping noises as people join in, I'm sorry about that. We should have that settle in another 5 to 10 minutes. Generally, people take about a bit to figure out the audio. I apologize for that. Yeah, just give it about a minute or two. You should be fine. Okay, so let's get quickly started off with the agenda while people are still joining in. We'll buy us some time. Thank you for being patient, for letting other people joining in a little late. I request everyone who's attending your CPD webinars every week, Friday, 2 to 3 p.m. EST to kindly join somewhere between 1:45 and 1:55 so we can get started at 2 without any interruptions. Thank you for understanding. Today's topic is mainly focusing on expense management. We have done disbursements in the past few weeks, I think a couple of weeks ago, or even before, maybe sometime late last month, where we did cover a bit about expenses and how do you manage different types of expenses, especially, mostly focusing on disbursements. But this one is a larger portion where we talk about disbursements, of course, being expenses as well, but we're also going to talk about, in general, office expenses, business expenses, different types of expenses on running your firm, and what can you expect and how do you manage them? What are the differences between a disbursement and an office expense or a business expense, and how do you record them respectively? And what are the key benefits out of recording them under the respective journals or respective accounts, chart of accounts, where they have different types of accounts. So We're going to see mostly all of these and also a little bit of analytics as to when you record your expenses, how does it benefit? What are the different types of analytics that you can, um, look into to save more money and to, you know, um, basically reduce your overall profit, because obviously only when you record your expenses, the right profit or loss is arrived at. Until then, it's going to be um, pretty daisy for all of you. So this is when a software plays a huge role in helping you to update your expenses from time to time. I am a big, um, you know, fan of using a software to record your expenses, because we tend to lose track of expenses, especially office expenses that are small, like, your postage and courier, your subscriptions, your something that is at least auto renewed, which is not coming to your knowledge or which is not coming in front of you when you're doing your calculations, because most of them are auto renewal and or pad based, which is sometimes does not ring a bell because it keeps going on from your account, and unless you open your bank accounts and then unless you open your books of accounts to verify them, record them, it is quite difficult or challenging to arrive at the right number. So that is why we um, emphasize on your books of accounts to be done on a regular basis, like at least a monthly basis, if not weekly, if not daily, if not, bi-weekly. The worst thing that could, you know, be avoided here is if you are able to track your expenses on a monthly basis by connecting your bank accounts or by using your manual data entry, by downloading your bank statements, or you get a paper statement. I mean, I would say don't wait until you get your paper statement. The least you could do, I would recommend, is to go online, download your bank statements online, and then start recording them. And there's nothing like real-time data entry, but I understand they could be always as a sole proprietor or as a small firm or as a LP. You can always go through wearing different hats and trying to do different things. So the minimum that I would say is expected out of you is a monthly reconciliation of your general accounts as well. I know to a lot of people, trust is mandated, but general is also part of compliance, law society compliances. So mostly if you see all your general account expenses or all your office expenses or business expenses tend to go out of your general account. Now, this will be a good chance for you to track down the expenses and record them into your general account. So your income comes in, your expenses goes out, and then you are able to reconcile your books, match it to your bank statements, and be compliant throughout your, throughout your practice time or throughout the year. That being said, to kickstart with a little bit of presentation that we have here, is the basic thing to understand as a difference between a disbursement and a office expense or a business expense. Now, a disbursement is nothing but any expense incurred on behalf of your client that you as a lawyer or a paralegal is required to make a payment before you get any retainer or before you get any payment for the transaction. So basically, any expense incurred on behalf of your client, and you claim for it once the work is done, and then pay yourself or pay your business. And, that is about the connection with the transaction that happens on behalf of your client. Basically, to put it in a short layman's term that you see here, is expenses incurred for your client by your law office, which will eventually be reimbursed by them once you raise an invoice and recover the expense. Of course, you need to record in the books of accounts as to how you have spent it, how you have claimed for it, and what do you plan to do with the money? Like transfer the money if you have some money left in the trust and pay yourself into the general account, or you directly get the money into the general account if you don't handle trust. There are different ways in which you can get paid. Those fall under, of course, the accounting part of it, but that is about disbursements. Now, about business or an office expense. It's very simple, straightforward. When you run a business, you tend to incur expenses, which is bare minimum, as could be your membership fee, could be your office rent, or even if you're doing a home office, you will still end up getting an internet. You will have a subscription to a software like uLaw. You will have different needs for your business that basically needs to keep your business running, and that is termed as a business or an office expense. Now, one of the simplest ways on how could you track your office expense, as a small tip that I could give you, is to always have a separate business credit card. Now, whenever you incur an office expense, you would want to use that credit card so you can track down your expense. You can connect your business credit card to a program like uLaw. Let the software do the work. At least 70% of the work is done with connecting the bank, whereas 20 to 30% is where your action is required to add it into the right ledger and just submit it. So I would say, in fact, 90% of the work will be done when you connect your bank. So connecting bank, we will talk about it in the when I'm walking you through using uLaw platform. But one of the most simplest things for you to take an action on will be connecting your bank to the program, especially if you're worried about tracking down your expenses. You need to record it in the books to match with your bank accounts to be able to reconcile it and keep a track of your expenses. And also, most importantly, manage your taxes, right? Because you want to make sure that some of the expenses are tax exempt, some of them are not, and then you need to add them respectively. Now, difference between disbursements and business expenses. Disbursements is, of course, recoverable, which means that you get it back on behalf of your client once you've paid for it. And if you do not track them, or if you don't track them, what happens? You're not able to record it. You're not able to raise an invoice. You're not able to recover it or get paid for it. And also, you're not able to calculate your taxes, which is the respective HST, GST component. Ultimately, you're not able to arrive at your real profit or loss margin. So in order to be able to arrive at these numbers, the simple thing that you could do is to track these expenses on real time or connect your bank and take actions. Now, how do you manage these, starting off with disbursements? Simple, record the disbursement as to how it was paid, who had paid it, and what was the reason. Now, this will by itself allow a few things. As to how it was paid will allow you to determine that you need to pay back either into trust or pay back into, if it's trust, no problem, because you're straightforward using your client's money. But if you're using your general account or your personal account or your credit card, any of that sort, you will have to make sure to, reimburse yourself. So for which you need to update into books of accounts as to this is how I paid it. I will be again walking you through it when I'm using uLaw as to I used my general account, I used my business credit card, or I used my own credit card. I don't have a business credit card. I used my own credit card for it. So you have an additional step where you have to pay back yourself. Not alone you're transferring the money from trust account to the general account by raising an invoice saying you paid for this disbursement, but you have another step to pay yourself from the general account too. So record the disbursement as to with all these respective details and record it respectively under that particular client's name and matter so that you know the money in the trust account, it belongs to this client and you only take it from that client. You don't accidentally remove it from another client, so you don't make that mistake unless you go and work directly from the matter saying that I would like to withdraw money for the disbursement purposes. Similarly, if you had paid from the general account, you decide as to which portion is it that you would like to invoice, because when you're doing handling disbursements, you would want to first of all ensure that the respective portion of the invoice has to be marked up or marked down or the same as what you're going to what you've incurred. So once you decide what is the portion that you're going to invoice your client, then you update the portion accordingly, whether plus or minus or same, and then you send the invoice to the client. And once the client approves the invoice, then you finalize the invoice and recover the expense from them, either from their trust account if there is money in the trust, by transferring money from trust to the general and pay yourself if there is another step involved, like I already mentioned, or you can just directly ask them to pay you into the general account. Like you would raise an invoice for your legal work and ask them to pay into the general account. And then as to what are some things that you can really consider to keep yourself compliant at the same time simple. Now, there are some of these disbursements that are only allowed to be made from general account. There's no only trust because not everybody would have a trust. So, but there is a concept of only general. Anything with a markup value straight away goes only out of your general account. You cannot touch your trust account to pay for any marked up value items like courier, postages, and printing, photocopies and stuff, right? Like, there's always a room to mark up those items. So you don't want to use the trust for that purpose because trust is client's money and it's a liability. You don't make profit from that. You invoice and then move the money from trust to the general. So which means that you can make the disbursement or the expenditure only out of your general account. When paid from trust account, you don't have to recover the expense. That's a big plus point, of course, because it's an advantage where you don't have to wait for your client to approve the bill and recover it and stuff like that. Because, of course, handling money out of trust is a bit of headache for you to record the expenses, but it's not bad because all that you need to do is a simple 3-step or 2-step accounting and you're done, right? So make sure that there is money lying in trust and it is not a profitable or a marked up value item, and then you can use the trust. If not, for trust, you can use the money from general and get yourself reimbursed. Now, if you are, using money from general or business credit card or your own pocket, make sure to record with appropriate details as to the date, the amount, what portion you're going to invoice them, is there a marked up value, and is it taxable, non-taxable, which is tax exempt or not, and the method of payment, bank, who was paid to, the payee, and record everything, possible. All of these details, end of the day, gets transformed into journals, ledgers, and they are recorded for your audit purposes, especially when you're being audited. You're requested to submit your general disbursement journal, your other expense book, fee book, other things, so which will directly impact the information that you're recording into the accounts. Now, when is the right time to recover these disbursements? And how should you be doing it? Make sure that before you raise the invoice, you have all the details and particulars right, all the information captured, and record the amount you want to invoice with or without taxes appropriately. And ensure that if you need a markup or a markdown, you do that with all the proper taxes involved. And once all of those things are determined, you can go ahead and raise an invoice. And once the invoice is raised and client has approved it, you will be able to transfer any money lying in the trust as a trust transfer or get it as a client payment into your general account directly. Now, if you have paid for this, one more additional step, if you have paid for this from your personal money, you go ahead reimbursing yourself for the same as against just using the general account. Make sure you have all the ledgers and journals updated as per Law Society guidelines. So this is what will allow you to be compliant with Law Society guidelines, including your disbursement management and expense management, as both disbursement journals and expense book will reflect all these information that you're capturing as a compliance report. While we talk about disbursement, what are these disbursements that can be billed out of trust and what are the ones that can be billed only out of your general account? So any billables can go out both trust and general. Unit rates, mileages, travel time, any recovery of expenses with profit margin, any consultancy outsourced with profit margin. These 5 items can be used only under general account. You can bill out only out of general account and get the payment into the general account directly as a client payment. And anything that says both trust and general is like if you don't have trust, you can use your general. And if you have your trust, you're okay to use your trust. Just make sure billable and anything that is without a profit margin, like any outsourced consultancy or any recovery of expenses on actuals without profit margin can be used from both trust as well as general. Now, what are the benefits of capturing the data with all these information? Why not just debit and credit and move on? So obviously, these are done for your internal tracking as well as external, which includes your audits and other requirements if any client needs any information to look into, which will be further drilled down into the client's trust ledger or client's general ledger or a journal, respectively. So during audits, these disbursement ledgers and journals, both for trust and general, are definitely reviewed. I've seen this so far. Like I said, many of us do not know the significance of a general account transactions. A lot of us pay attention to trust, which is very natural, but just FYI, and from what I've been witnessing in the last few years, and also a piece of advice or a tip, how you want to take it as, general account reconciliations or general ledgers, journals, which capture the data such as particulars and who it was paid to or who it was paid from, and taxes inclusive or not, All of these particulars are extremely important to be captured that gets into the respective accounts. Ebook with appropriate taxes captured so that, any taxes to be paid gets into their HST or GST or PST ledgers respectively. And as you can all see, the ledgers carry both receipts and disbursements, while journals are more drilled down version of ledgers with receipts journal carrying only the funds that comes in, and disbursements would carry only the funds that would go out. Like the general disbursement journal has what was the method of payment, who was it paid to, and what was the purpose of payment, and also the amount with the date, of course. And if you are using a general ledger, you would see more of the taxes portion, before taxes, after taxes, especially with the invoicing portion or invoicing part of it. Now, moving on to your office expenses or business expenses. Like I already mentioned, this is purely to run your business, your overhead cost, including your rent, your electricity utilities, your internet, your phone, your other memberships and association fees, and all of these to help you run the business overall. Again, in layman's terms, expenses incurred for keeping the lights on in your law office. This could be a home office, this could be a real office. It totally depends on your work style. But irrespective of that, you need to record it into the books to balance your accounts as to how these expenses are to be managed, as well as your taxes. Now, what are different types of expenses? One, it totally depends on your nature of practice. Some people could rent, some people could use home office, so a portion of it can be considered for rent as an expense. Office management expenses include all the overheads such as gas, utilities, meals, advertisements, law society fee, other membership fees, etc. While we also have corporate taxes, bank charges, bank accounts, salary, paying yourself, borrowings, interest, other overheads that you need really to manage your overall business. Now, how do you record it? Of course, manually recording them was what we used to do before, where we used to literally wait for an expense to go out of your bank account, and then you come into the program and then click on date and then choose the particulars, enter what was it, amount, and then who was it paid to, tax exempt or not, and then choosing the bank account, and then entering the method of payment and the reference number. So it's about 7 to 8 steps that would need your attention. While we progressed and things became more tech savvy, people started to connect their banks, or even before that, there's another step where you can download your CSV format of your bank statement and upload it into the program and just take action for all of the expenses. Now that became even better when we were able to connect the bank and add all your expenses using the bank accounts. Expenses include definitely withdrawal, and you can record them individually. You can also record them as batch imports every time you import your expenses. And you can also be able to take action and record it under the respective accounts. Now, record them as and when they happened is the best thing. If not, immediately click on Connect Bank and try to do it at least once every couple of days or a week. I'd say anything more than a week for you to record. There's a little stress on your end, but it is what it is. End of the day, you have a work pattern, so follow that and make sure that you are able to use your system to the best knowledge and recover all your expenses and record them and show the actual profit or loss. So to capture them, you need the type of expense, the date, capture them under the respective subledgers, whether it is a membership fee, you choose the membership fees for that month, and then the type of expenses, amount, method of payment, who it was paid to. All of these are, some of them get automatically imported when you import expenses. Some of them need your attention. So partially, that's what I'm saying. When you import, almost 70 to 90% of the data is captured. It's the 10 to 20% of the remaining attention that we would need for you to ensure everything is right, go through and then submit. So I will again be walking you through this part in our uLaw program, but if you're someone who is aware of using on how to use your bank accounts connected to the program, but you're still not using it, I would highly recommend you to start doing it. So now, what are these documents that needs to be managed to maintain your office expenses? Expense book, number one, showing all the expenses for the period with or without taxes. And for the respective clients, if it is either a client expense or a business expense. Description as to what it was and the expense amount. Expense book is in general which captures both disbursements and office expenses. Sometimes if you want to drill down much more in detail and specific, you can use the disbursement journal. And profit and loss shows the recording with every profit or loss. What about analytics portion? We all have the thing to worry or stress on what am I doing with the money. Now, the app or even the browser application that you're using for uLaw, both, whether you're using a mobile app or you're using your browser, both will show you the analytics portion, which will allow you to go through at your own pace as to whatever you want to see, whether you want to see what are your top expenses and to, take action on it accordingly. You can even look into the details and the recommendations we have for you, the ratio that we have, worked on for the month or the quarter or the year, and what these expenses can do in the future or optimize or reduce the health of the business to understand where you stand, and to help you visualize the data either in form of pie chart, bar diagram, details, insights, etc. Lastly, to know the unknown and to know what needs to be done to react and take action and plan for it ahead. So you're not lost, you're not surprised, you're not thrown into any huge, surprise that you would like to know ahead of time. So that is where analytics plays a role for you to, by capturing the data and converting it into insights. So you know that when you look into analytics, you know what you want to do next and how to take action, what to do, where to cut short or where to control the expenses, manage things better. Now, of course, all of this is possible only if you have a benefit of using a legal accounting software. Now, you could use any accounting software, but a legal accounting will help you do multiple things at the same time. You're not only recording the client's name to add in an intake, but that will help you to create a matter, that will help you to manage the file, that will help you to record expenses and show in their respective ledgers that gets transferred into the journals, ledgers, fee books, expense books, reports, whatnot. So a simple name could go a long way. Very similarly, all these expenses goes into every financial record that you handle and makes more meaning, and it helps you to keep your reconciliation tasks simple and maintain all these documents that will be needed for your law society purposes. And, there's always this thing about ease of use, being able to use from anywhere, software especially that is cloud-based like uLaw. They then work from anywhere in the world, and of course you need the internet. And the analytics portion especially is so wonderful on the mobile app too. So you literally need not stress yourself to sit in front of a computer, sit straight and look into the screen, but you can still use your tablet or your iPad or your phone to have an app downloaded and just look into the reports right there, just keep it handy, and that would be helpful for you. The ease of use is there and saves you a lot of time and energy in planning things that you would do without knowing where you stand. So I definitely recommend people who are attending the webinar today, if you're not a uLaw user, we have a 15-day trial. I request you to sign up and see how things work there. I'd like to walk you all through my practice account. I have a Playground account, and I want to show you a few expense examples and how do you manage them and which are the different types of documents that would get generated with one point of entry and one point of data entry. And, it's pretty nice to know that the software will do most of the work while you just sit down and, plan the actual work that needs to be done as a legal professional. Once again, thank you all for attending the webinar today. And we're not done yet, but I just wanted to take a quick pause, a moment to see if there are any questions. And I request you all, if not, start using, the chat window to ask all your questions, because this is a time where I can walk you through uLaw based on your questions as well. And, wait until the last where I'll be sharing the attendance link and the webinar information. Thank you. Expense management can be tricky if you do not track it. So a simple way that I always tell my clients is to go into accounts if you're a uLaw user. The first thing you want to do is ensure your banks are connected, right? So none of my banks are connected. I can, even though it says pool trust account is just for you to, pull out your bank statements, but mostly they are, just for the sake of, right, just give me a second. I got kicked out, so let me log back in. Okay, so this is how you get your banks connected. To get your banks connected, one of my considered advice would be to turn off the two-factor authentication at your bank. So this is the one you don't want to use it, and make sure that you keep that turned off. Similarly, you connect your general and your business credit card. So the whole point of doing this is so that you can access, we rather from uLaw can access your bank accounts and pull out the transactions for helping you record into the respective bank accounts. Yeah, that talks about disallowed expenses. I'll walk you through that, Bruce. Yeah, so I'll walk you through. That's a very nice question. So yeah, it is kind of related, definitely. Taxes portion is a little tricky, like I already said, so you need to be a little careful with entering them. So I'll walk you through that disallowed portion. So bank accounts, once you add them in, I'd like to always have all my 3 banks connected. Of course, for the ones who don't have a business credit card, it's a different thing, or ones who don't have a trust, it's a different thing, but most 100% you will have at least a general account to connect to. So do that. Once your bank accounts are connected, then you can just submit them, and then you can work on, right now, again, I'm on my uLaw account. I'm in accounts, which is where most of your office expense data entry works. Client expenses happens from matters under disbursements. I will come to it, but before that, I wanted to walk through most of it because disbursements is done during disbursements demystified webinar, but I want to focus a bit on office expense management here. So accounts, import bank statement. I'm not going to import anything here. I'm just going to click on Connect Bank, and you will actually see my banking transactions showing up for this month or the previous month. There you go. I just have to simply click on Take Action. Okay, that's Uber. Okay, I used it to go to my office. So I would click on Office Expenses. And then the moment it says Uber, uLaw can recognize. So uLaw, first of all, records the date. You cannot change the date. It's grayed out. And it says travel. Do you agree with it? Yes, leave it at travel. And then description is kind of not something you want it to be. So copy and paste that probably here somewhere. I would say Uber, it was paid to. I would say it was used by using my debit card or some online payment. And then I would say travel to work or to maybe client visit, something like that, right? Keep it simple, but everything else is auto-computed. I literally had to just, that, if you're comfortable with what uLaw shows in the description, just leave it as it is and go ahead and click submit, and you're done within less than 1 minute. Sometimes you're done within less than a second too. Just take action. For example, McDonald's office expense, it will show meals, and then I'll be okay with McDonald's there, and then I would go ahead and submit it. But what I typically like to do is to pick this up and put this in the right place because McDonald's was paid to. And then in the description, I like to say client meeting or lunch And then I would say, how is it paid for? I would say, I'd say debit card because it was my general account. And then if I have number, I could even put that in. All these are additional information. You could ask me, oh, G3 for $12. Why do I have to go through this? See, most of the things are done by us here, 90% of it. All that you have to do is just select the method of payment, just make sure everything is appropriate and enter the numbers which we cannot pull out from the account because sometimes they don't give the reference numbers. This is not mandatory, but it looks nice to have because when I'll show you the ledgers and journals now once I finish adding transaction, and I'll show you the difference between an incomplete entry or an incomplete data entry versus a complete data entry. Goes a long way, especially when you're being audited. Again, it's only a general account. It's only an office expense. It's totally your perspective to deal with it, but these are just my recommendations, right? And of course, Law Society's recommendations too. Now, again, Starbucks, it automatically chose meals, and then you can just cut and paste this in the paid to column. I would say coffee, and then I would say I used my debit card. Now this time I don't have my reference number with me. So I'll just click on submit. And I want to show you the difference between the previous entry and this entry when I do the data. Now, once my bank is connected, if I don't have time to go out and log back into my bank and check my transactions, I can just click on bank statement right there and all the transactions for this month will show up. Maybe the last 45 days if I'm not wrong. Okay, now let me close this to show you all how it looks at this side. Okay, so I would like to click on compliance, monthly compliance. I'd probably do an expense book just maybe for and we'll see the few transactions that got added. Yeah, there you go. So I got the lunch, and then I got the coffee and client visit also. So if with taxes, without taxes gets updated accordingly. Now, if I go and click on, again, import bank statement and connect bank, and this time, let's say I want to add something as an client expense. Now I'd say maybe I would like to add the Spark Fund as a client expense. So I would just say client expense, and then I'd say whoever was the client, maybe, and take action. And then if there is any difference, then I would say 79.12. The bottom portion is what you're paying for, and the top portion is what you're charging them. So maybe you want to mark it up and charge them a different amount. And then in the item name, you can say, and it's the Spark Fund here. And then you paid using your debit card, and then you have the reference number, you save it. So within a minute, I was able to do that. But I want to now go and generate a general disbursement journal, maybe for this month, and download. This one entry would show up as a recreation cost. And there you go, recreation cost. The one that I just entered, Spark Fund, who was paid to, the method of payment, date, amount before taxes, amount after taxes, and the total. Now, this is what is called as a general disbursement journal. You're dispersing this amount, but what did you charge them? A different amount. So that I can verify under fee book, monthly, download, and then in the fee book, you would see it as $90 plus taxes. Oh, sorry, I didn't raise an invoice yet. So let me go ahead and show you all that I would like to raise an invoice to recover this payment. It was under, I'm not wrong, just give me a moment. Client disbursement, Spark Fund, this was the client. I think it was Andrea. So I just go in here. Okay, Andrea George. Go to the matter. I would like to raise an invoice just for the disbursement, skip review. The date of the invoice is today's date and invoice. So the moment I invoice, the client would receive, you can send the client information with the disbursements and asking them to pay for it. So for that, I would go and click on accounts. So there's no payment here. Rather there's no invoice to be done for the legal fee, just for the disbursement. So you have so much here, coffee meetings, photocopies, recreation, everything here. And then you can go ahead and click on accounts and say for today's date, compliance, monthly fee book, today's date, download, and you'll see the details of the disbursements under disbursement description. And if it's a legal fee, it'll obviously show you legal fee, but this one is showing as a disbursement. Hence, you can differentiate when you, as well as the auditor, can differentiate when the data is entered with such perfection. All that you have to do is enter it under the appropriate fields. You are not technically entering everything yourself, but you're providing the data and entering it at the respective columns. So with or without HST, respectively, it gets captured and the total is shown later. Okay. Going back in to showing you all how the office expense book looks in terms of analytics, and going into analytics. Yeah, it shows you all of it, including today's recreation cost and the client visit made. The two things that I added now, with or without HST respectively. Now, if you want to then, work on the analytics portion, whether you're using, the browser setting or uLaw from your computer or your laptop or your browser, or you're using your mobile app, it's going to be the same analytics that you get to see. So you can go into analytics, you can see what you want to do for the accounts, and then for expenses, and then you can say monthly, and then you can do it and you'll see what was your expenses for this month and what was your highest expense. And then what was the details. If you have anything, you can look up here. And then if I want something in more detail, I can always go into Matter Analytics and then say, give me an analytics and download it and look into it too. And then if I want to compare various things with, of course, this is the summary report as to what is the pending trust transfer, what was the invoice balance, and then if there's anything that has not been collected, and what is the risk, how many matters have been there, how many has been closed, archived, dormant. You have everything here for you to take a look at, right? How much is the invoice balance that has not been collected, and your actions that needs to be looked into or taken care of or need your attention. Aging report and the balances that needs to be transferred, invoiced, but needs to be transferred from trust to the general. Okay. Now just going back in, I'd like to show you all one last thing about ask the AI about your expense report for the period. And so it gives me how much is my income and how much was my expense for this month and the comparison with previous months. And then it gives me a little bit of trend analytics as to where I have spent most of the money and which month was declining, which was a great month, and also the quarterly expenses and the comparative analysis and the focus area where you will need to budget on, and given the high fluctuation, what are more requirements. Basically a detailed review of everything that combines together allows you to get a realistic picture of what your expenses, especially for the client or for office expenses, has been on, and then you can set a goal and expectations going forward. So once again, I know it is not something that everybody can track to the T and do unless you have a software, unless the software can integrate with your bank and connect with the bank and pull out the transactions. So if you're someone who's not using this feature, I would highly recommend you to use it and benefit out of the time and accuracy of data that gets captured. And keep yourself compliant by extracting the reports every now and then, and by reconciling your books, which also includes your general account as part of Law Society monthly compliances. I believe that's the end of today's session, and I thank each and every one of you for joining today's call or webinar. And please provide your attendance. I'll be sharing the link. It'll be helpful for you in future if you'd like to, come back and check with us about today's topic, and also the details. We'll know if you attended and provide you the details for that. There's going to be another CPD in the next week. We'll have the topic announced during the week. And for any questions, please reach out to us on support@uLawPractice.com. And I also think I missed to, share one of the person's question. So there was a query on how do you record a disallowed expense. Let's say I just want to end the session with this question. So when you add an office expense and it's say 90% of the portion was taxable, and then some of it was not taxable, then you can actually put the pre-tax amount over here, and the rest of it is non-taxable. Especially now the disallowed portion, you can record it under when you're in the client's disbursement. Some of it is disallowed. You can actually click on disallowed expense. Let's say $100 was spent, out of which, or rather $110, out of which $10 was not taxable. So the pre-tax amount is calculated only on the tax is calculated only on the pre-tax portion. So you see $13 on $100, but the total is $123 because $10 was a tip let's say this was something to do with meal or a lunch outing, and you're not charging your client, it was just for you, it was an office expense, but with your client. So you just record it as it is. Now you click on save and it goes on to your office expenses, and you can click on action accounts, and then you can do maybe I'll just do an expense book, or I can even do a general disbursement. I think I need to double check. So that's how you add a disallowed portion, but let me check if this one covers the expense book. Yeah, there you go. So the lunch outing, out of which the expense was $100 and taxable expense rather, and then $10 was disallowed, $13 was taxable, 123 being the total. That's how you add a disallowed expense. Thank you. I'm sorry I went with the flow and I missed to answer your question. That's why I always try to keep it to that. Thank you. And anybody who needs help to connect your bank, please reach out to us on the support, and it will be great because it's mind-blowing and game-changing unless you witness it yourself to see how much time you save, and also the mental stress about remembering each and every detail yourself, connecting the bank and letting it do 90% of the work and try to just intervene the 10% that I walked you through today. So feel free to reach out to us on support and book a session, and our folks will help you to get started off with using the same. I wish everyone all the best. For someone who needs any help in terms of your expense management, reach out and we can certainly help. Thank you very much. And if no questions, we can call it a day, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And I'll come up with a new topic for the next session early next week. And any recommendations, please reach out to us again on support@uLawPractice.com or info@uLawPractice.com. And we'll be happy to take any suggestions too. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend.